Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris. In this video, I'm gonna give you a glimpse inside the tips and tricks I've found in my woodworking career thus far using nail guns. So, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me just first start off by saying that I am no expert in this field. However, I have learned a few things. So use this to your discretion, and I'm gonna tell you a few tips and tricks here using nail guns. Now, I will say always when using a pneumatic nailer or any type of nailer for that matter, wear your safety glasses. This is hugely important. I have had an accident, and I will get into that in a minute. I'll tell you the worst accident I've had featuring a brad nail, but more on that later. But first, let me discuss the anatomy of an actual brad nail and why you should know why that's important. All right, so the first tip and trick I want to share with you guys is actually about the anatomy of the brad nail itself. Now, I'm going to show you here in a little clip on the side of me actually taking apart a section of brad nails. You can see here that, well, I'm having a little trouble with the focus. So actually what I've done here is I've gotten a piece of plywood, cut it down to a strip, and given you kind of an illustration of an anatomy of a brad nail. So I get my brad nailer here and take the actual brad nails out. You can see that in this particular model, some are different, but relatively it's the same thing. You're gonna load them up, and then you're gonna basically shut it. And here's the deal. These brad nails are oriented a certain way. And what I mean by that is when you have the gun, let's say the gun here is placing itself, where I'm gonna call this perpendicular to the bottom edge, this being the bottom edge of a piece you're gonna connect. This is perpendicular. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the correct way to use a brad nailer. You don't want to go and use a nailer this way. And yeah, I just made sound effects. Either way, you don't want to run your brad nail along the surface of the actual perpendicular piece parallel. You don't want to go this way. You want to turn your brad nail this way. And why is that? Well, I'll explain. This piece of wood represents a brad nail, all right? And this nail itself is going to drive itself into this actual piece of wood, if you can envision this. Now, there's gonna be flex in this nail. And if you guessed it, the flex is gonna be a little bit greater on the narrower side of the nail. So you can see here, I can kind of flex this around, flex that back and forth. But however, this way, there's not much flex in it, okay? I can't really bend it, it's a piece of plywood. You get what I'm saying? So when you install a piece of material, and when you actually bring this into the surface, you don't want this thing being able to come out the side, coming out the side here. This causing blowout. What you want is if the nail is gonna move any direction, you want it to move inside the actual workpiece and not outside or inside. You want no blowout, that's the key. And the key is knowing the anatomy of the nail. If you don't know that, you may just have gone through and nailed a piece of wood together, or two pieces of wood together, and found, I always get blowout, I don't know what's going on. And typically, it's because you've oriented the gun 90 degrees the wrong way. So, going forward, remember, always nail your pieces this way, and never this way. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do it that way, you're just gonna have a higher chance of blowout with the anatomy of the nail coming out the side. All right, so that's the first tip. I hope I was able to articulate that well. And let's move on to number 2. Okay, so now that we've got this established, that we're gonna join our piece of wood together with our brad nailer perpendicular to the bottom surface. Okay, again, not parallel, but perpendicular. There's another trick you can use as well, and that's when you put pressure on your brad nail, go ahead and angle it, maybe about 10 degrees on your first go. Your next nail, angle it the opposite direction, about 10 degrees, and so on and so forth. Okay, now this one I'm gonna turn it around because I don't want my hand in the way. And what that's gonna do is essentially it's gonna put a series of brad nails inside that look like this. They're gonna be angled like this, like this, like this, and like that. And that corresponding force, that angular force that you've put in to actually suture these together is gonna give you a really strong hold that can't find its way out much easily. They can't find its way out easily. So that's another tip, guys, is when you're installing pieces of wood, definitely do those slight 10-degree angles, and you should have a super strong hold with what appears to be a relatively simple method of connection. All right, another trick is in that same vein, guys. Let's say you have brad nails in the house and they're gonna go through both pieces of material that you need to join together. Not by much, but you can see there's gonna be some blowout there. So again, I'll give you an example real quick. If I simply just put these nails in, oh, there we go. And I just simply put a nail through, you can see very clearly that, yeah, that's not very good. So how do we fix that? Well, again, we're going to go with that same method of angling the nail gun just a little bit. Now you don't want to go too crazy. You do that, the nail could ricochet off in one direction. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna do slight variations of angles. And again, it's gonna give you a strong hold, but it's also gonna create zero blowout on the bottom. Another little trick by angling them back and forth. Okay, one more key point of interest here is your actual air compressor itself. You're gonna have typically two gauges on an air compressor. One is gonna register the tank pressure and the other is gonna register the output pressure. In terms of what are you doing with the compressor? Are you using a nail gun? Well, we're doing it in this case, but a lot of times that pressure can vary. If you're doing maybe some painting, you might want that pressure to be lower. You want it to be around 35, 40 PSI. For most nail guns, anywhere between 75 and 100 is pretty good. You can see here, I set mine right about the 90 PSI range. That seems to work for me. However, there is a feature that I'm going to show you on my finish nailer that you can actually raise and lower the depth of how far that nail head is going to go into the surface. You can see here by adjusting the wheel or the adjustment wheel there, left or right, you can determine whether the nail head is going to stick up a little bit or really plow itself down into the surface. And that's one thing to keep in consideration, is that you want to do a little trial and error before you start working with the nails on your finished piece. Always it's a good idea to have some scrap around and definitely test what's going on with your pressure and the depth setting on your nail gun. And once you do that and you find that it works on your scrap pieces, go ahead and make your final piece. Just want to discuss that with you guys, keep an eye out for how important the actual pressure is on your tank moving forward. Now here's an angle of my shop you may not see very often, but I do want to explain to you one of the key points that I really like about my setup, and that's having my nail gun above my head. Meaning there is a small little alcove here where I can actually put my nail gun in, and I've got two different hooks that for when I'm using it right on my workbench, all this stays up and out of the way, and I've got my nail gun at a moment's notice. I could be working, simply take it out, use it, and put it back. Now, it's not for everyone. I've spent quite a bit of time making this above garage door plywood storage area for 4x8 foot sheets, and I figured I would use that to my advantage by putting some nail gun storage as well. So if you can find that kind of method for your nail gun for you in your shop, it's fantastic. I'll never go back to having it underneath, and at least I think I won't. But that's a great method of keeping it above your head. Really easy, it's really convenient, and yeah, I love it. Continuing with the theme of Brad nails, I'm going to feature Brad Rodriguez from Fix This Build That on both platforms. And the reason I'm saying on both platforms is he kind of started his journey in woodworking on Instagram and grew a very large following, and then turned that following into a large following on YouTube. Now, if you don't know Brad and you know me, well, shame on you, because this guy is pretty legit, and he's done a lot of good things for us in this community. So a lot of knowledge and a lot of know-how here. So go check him out on both platforms. He does really cool things on Instagram. He does hangouts. I'm not sure when, but if I see him post a live video, he's one of the ones I always check to see what's going on and conversate, and he's really good about answering questions on there too. And of course, tell him who sent you. Okay, so now let's talk about the worst injury I've had with a nail gun, and it actually isn't with the gun at all. I had a brad nail do something really precarious to me. This was a few years ago before I started filming for YouTube. I'll explain what happened. So I was making a wooden, not treasure box, but a toolbox, making a wooden toolbox for my dad for Father's Day. And I had the top of the box, I had the whole box assembled in one big piece. And the technique that you can do here is set the depth on your fence, on your table saw, and run the piece through the blade over on all four sides, and of course wedging it in the kerf. And then when you make that final pass, two pieces are separated and you have a top and a bottom that perfectly fit. So I was doing that, and I was on the very last pass. I was going through like this, and as I was coming through the other side, let me show you this angle right here, exactly what happened. You can see as I was making the final pass for illustration here, you can see there's a nail hole right there. And as I came through the blade, look at that. That nail hole lined up exactly with the blade. And, well, guess what happened? That brad nail came flying out of the workpiece and stuck me right in the neck. It hit me just about 1/8 of an inch to the left of my Adam's apple, and it went in about almost 3/8 of an inch, about 1/4 of an inch. It all happened so fast, I really didn't know what happened. I felt like a bee sting in my neck, and I was like, what the heck? And as I put my hand there, I realized there was a nail sticking out of my neck. So I calmly turned the saw off. I went into the bathroom in my house, and I kind of looked in there, and I was able to, as I was pulling on it, it kept bringing the skin with it. And luckily, I'm really lucky. It didn't hit anything. It didn't hit that actual Adam's apple right there. And I was able to actually just pull it out. And I dodged a bullet, literally. Well, I guess I didn't dodge it, but I got lucky. So, brad nails are always respected in the gun and outside the gun. So be careful. No matter what you're doing, always wear these glasses. Well, I don't have them, but I have them on, they're not on my head. But I do wear safety glasses when I'm doing almost anything. I'm using a drill, putting in a drywall anchor, I'm wearing safety glasses. You can see that in my videos. And even when I'm like mowing the lawn, I'm wearing safety glasses. Your eyes are hugely important, and brad nails can completely mess them up. And I think it's David Marks, who has a quote, a wooden plaque in his shop that says, "Forgetting your safety glasses can greatly change the way you see the world." And that's so true. So guys, really, I hope you enjoyed this video. This was a very kind of a tips and tricks video, and I really just wanted to pay forward some of the knowledge and some of the experiences that I've had in using this medium. So guys, thanks again for joining me for this video. I very much appreciate you being here. My name is Chris, and this has been A Glimpse Inside, and we'll see you on that next project.